Terence Crawford just made history by beating Canelo Alvarez to become the first male fighter ever to win undisputed titles in 3 different weight classes.
The stretch we come. The Fighting Pride of Omaha, Nebraska, USA.
But here's what nobody's talking about. Crawford's next fight could either cement his legacy as the greatest of all time or destroy everything he just built. And fight number 3 on this list, it might actually happen in 2026. Stay to the end, because we're breaking down the 5 most explosive potential matches for Bud Crawford. And trust me, you're not ready for what's coming. What's up, fight fans? If you've been following boxing at all in 2025, you know that September 13th changed everything. Terence Bud Crawford shocked the world by defeating Canelo Alvarez by unanimous decision at the Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, capturing all 4 super middleweight belts and making boxing history. But here's where it gets interesting. Crawford is now 38 years old. He's conquered 3 divisions as undisputed champion. He's made generational wealth from the Canelo fight. The question isn't just who should he fight next, it's should he even fight again? According to multiple reports, Crawford is targeting a March 2026 return. He's been spotted at the WBO convention in Colombia, and insiders say he's got his eyes on making even more history. We're talking about a potential 4th undisputed championship, or maybe even a blockbuster rematch that could shatter pay-per-view records. Today, we're counting down the 5 most realistic and explosive matchups for Crawford's next fight. We've done deep research into what the boxing media is saying, what promoters want, and what makes sense both financially and legacy-wise. These aren't fantasy matchups. These are real possibilities that could be announced any day now. So smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's break down who Terence Crawford should fight next. Alright, let's start with the fight that Eddie Hearn keeps screaming about from the rooftops. Jaron "Boot" Ennis versus Terence Crawford. Boot Ennis is 35-0 with 31 knockouts. He's been absolutely destroying everyone they put in front of him at welterweight and super welterweight. He's the IBF welterweight champion.
The IBF and the new unified WBA and Ring Magazine welterweight champion of the world.
Boots, congratulations. You got 3 pieces of hardware now.
And he just moved up to 154 pounds, where he demolished Usman Lima in the first round to capture the WBA interim title.
There's a straight shot.
I thought Lima was going to land it, but he got caught by Ennis.
Beautiful
And
uppercut.
he got dropped to Boots. Can he seal the deal right away? This crowd is on fire, and so is Ennis. And we've ever seen. Eddie Hearn seems to think so, and he's just done it.
Now here's why this fight is fascinating. Eddie Hearn, Ennis' promoter, believes he has the guy who can beat Crawford. And honestly, he might be right. Ennis is 28 years old, a full decade younger than Crawford. He's got the speed, the power, and most importantly, the style that could give Bud problems. Think about it. Ennis can box, he can brawl, he's got rapid-fire combinations, and he's basically a younger version of Crawford himself. Some trainers have called him the next Crawford and a hybrid of Roy Jones Jr. and Crawford combined. That's high praise. But here's the problem with this fight happening. According to multiple reports, Crawford's team has basically shut down any talks of fighting Ennis. Crawford's coach Brian "Bomac" McIntyre flat out said, "We ain't doing that fight," when asked about Ennis. And sources close to Crawford say he views Ennis as beneath him ranking-wise, even though Ennis represents probably the most competitive fight available. Eddie Hearn says Crawford would demand loads of money to take the Ennis fight because Bud knows how dangerous Boots is. And that's the real issue here. After making what some estimate was close to $100 million for the Canelo fight, Crawford isn't going to take a massive pay cut to face a fighter who could actually beat him. Financially, this fight doesn't make the same sense as other options. Ennis isn't a household name yet to casual fans, but competitively, this might be the best pure boxing match available. It's the passing of the torch fight, the young lion versus the aging king. The chances of this happening? Maybe 20%. Crawford would need to really want to test himself against elite competition, and based on recent reports, that doesn't seem to be his priority right now. But never say never. If Ennis keeps winning spectacularly and builds his name recognition,
Ennis.
Beautiful uppercut.
And he got dropped in round number 1 fire, and so is Ennis. And down again. Goes so, and he's just done it.
And if Crawford wants that changing of the guard legacy fight, this could happen at 154 or 160 pounds. But that's not even the most dangerous fight on this list. Number 4 would force Crawford back down in weight to face an absolute savage. Coming in at number 4, we have a young Mexican-American destroyer, Virgil the Texas Machine Ortiz Jr. Ortiz Jr. is 24-0 with 22 knockouts.
Has to be moving and pivoting.
Oh, the body! It's a showdown with Terence Crawford at
Right hand. He's not relying on that long punching him.
Ortiz thinks he's got it, and he might have. Back against the ropes.
Backward body shot from Virgil. Ortiz.
And he just demolished Erickson Lubin in 2 rounds to defend his interim WBC super welterweight title. The kid is an absolute terror at 154 pounds. He's got devastating power, relentless pressure, and at just 27 years old, he's in his absolute prime. What makes Ortiz Jr. so interesting is that he's been begging for the Crawford fight for years. After his win over Lubin, he called out 3 names: Bud Ennis, Errol Spence Jr., and Terence Crawford. He said Crawford at 160 pounds is a great fight that I've been calling for. Here's what makes this matchup so compelling. Ortiz Jr. shares an opponent with Crawford, Israil Madrimov. Crawford struggled with Madrimov, winning a controversial decision where many thought it could have gone the other way. Ortiz Jr. also beat Madrimov, but he looked more impressive doing it, showing patience and ring IQ to outbox the tricky southpaw. If Crawford drops down to middleweight like he's been hinting, Ortiz Jr. has made it crystal clear he'd be willing to meet him there. He said, "I was a big 140, big 147, big 154. I always said I would go up to 160 eventually, so why not?" But here's the million-dollar question. Would Crawford take this fight? Ortiz Jr. is young, powerful, and he applies constant pressure. This isn't the kind of fight where Crawford can just pot shot and move for 12 rounds. Ortiz Jr. cuts off the ring and makes you fight. David Benavidez even said recently that he'd love to see Crawford drop back to 154 to fight Boots and Virgil Ortiz. The style matchup is brutal for Crawford. Virgil is the kind of fighter who gets better as the fight goes on. And at 38, Crawford's biggest question mark is stamina and durability against younger, hungrier lions. Realistically, this fight has maybe a 25% chance of happening. It's risky for Crawford with minimal financial upside compared to other options. But if Crawford really wants to silence the critics who say he's cherry-picking, facing Ortiz Jr. would be a statement. Oscar De La Hoya, Ortiz Jr.'s promoter, has been trying to make this fight happen for years. If Turki Al-Sheikh gets involved and puts up major money, we could see this matchup in 2026. But wait till you hear about fighter number 3. This one's actually been leaked and could happen as early as spring 2026. Here's where things get really interesting. Fight number 3 is Janibek Alimkhanuly, and this one might actually be happening. Janibek is the unified IBF and WBO middleweight champion with a perfect 17-0 record and 12 knockouts. He's fighting Erislandy Lara on December 6th in the unification belt for 3 of the 4 middleweight belts. Now, here's where it gets juicy. Back in October, Crawford was at the WBO convention in Colombia filming on his Instagram story, and a graphic of Janibek suddenly appeared on the screen behind him. Crawford quickly turned the camera away, but not before the internet caught it. The video went viral, with people speculating that Crawford had just leaked his next opponent. Then Crawford posted a video message to Janibek saying, "I've got my eyes on you, Janibek. Good luck."
Johnny, we're here next. Looking for you. Looking for December 6th, how you gonna do it?
I got my eyes on you, Janibek. Good luck.
Before his fight with Lara, Janibek responded saying this is the matchup everyone wants to see. Here's why this fight makes perfect sense for Crawford's legacy. If he beats the winner of Janibek versus Lara, he'd win 3 of the 4 middleweight titles. The only belt unaccounted for would be Carlos Adames' WBC belt. Crawford could then fight Adames and become the 4th undisputed champion in his career, something no male fighter has ever accomplished. Think about that. 4 different weight classes as undisputed champion. That would put Crawford in a conversation we've never had before in boxing history. But here's the scary part for Crawford. Janibek is a problem. He's 6 feet tall with long reach. He's a southpaw, and he's got devastating power. Hall of Famer Tim Bradley said about Janibek, "Dude is cold, man. He's a damn killer." If Crawford goes down and faces that dude, his legacy may not be a marquee name, but I'm here to tell you, Janibek ain't here to be messed with. Even Janibek's former trainer, Buddy McGirt, says he doesn't think Janibek would beat Crawford right now, but he also acknowledged that Janibek is young and improving. The style matchup is concerning. Janibek fights like a spider, waiting for opponents to come to him before unleashing powerful combinations. The good news for Crawford, Janibek has slow feet. He can be outmoved and outboxed by a skilled technician like Bud. Crawford could control the range with his footwork and hand speed, picking Janibek apart from the outside. Reports say Crawford is targeting a March 2026 return. If Janibek beats Lara in December, that gives Crawford a few months to prepare for a spring showdown. The IBF could complicate things since they've reportedly ordered the winner to face Austin Williams next. But Turki Al-Sheikh has the money and power to make whatever fight he wants happen. This fight has about a 45% chance of happening. It's realistic, it makes sense for Crawford's legacy, and both fighters seem interested. Plus, it's the kind of historic achievement that would justify Crawford continuing his career. But that's not even close to the biggest money fight available. Number 2 would generate insane numbers. But there's one major problem. The second fight on our list is one that should happen but probably won't. David the Mexican Monster Benavidez. Benavidez is 30-0 with 24 knockouts, and he's now the WBC light heavyweight champion. He moved up to 175 pounds after getting frustrated with never landing the Canelo fight at super middleweight. But immediately after Crawford beat Canelo,
But Crawford got what he wanted.
Down the stretch we come. Nebraska, USA, and no ring magazine.
Turki Al-Sheikh posted on social media, "Can David Benavidez still make 168 pounds?" That tweet sent shockwaves through boxing. It was clear what Turki wanted. Benavidez dropping back down to face Crawford for the undisputed super middleweight championship. It would have been massive. The Mexican Monster versus the pound-for-pound king who just dethroned Mexican boxing royalty in Canelo. Benavidez's father and trainer, Jose Benavidez Sr., immediately said his son could make 168 for Crawford. He said anything is possible, especially for all those belts. The fight had everything: star power, a compelling story, and it would have been competitive as hell. But here's where it all fell apart. David Benavidez himself came out and said he has zero interest in going back to 168 pounds. In an interview with the Ring magazine, Benavidez said, "To be honest with you, man, let Terence Crawford live. That's his weight class. I lost interest in 168 a long time ago. I know that we can get offered a lot of money to go down to 168, but I'm more comfortable at 175. Even worse for fight fans, Crawford's team made it clear they don't want the Benavidez fight either. Bomac said straight up, "We ain't doing that fight," when asked.
Man, you know what? If you're going to be fans, you're going to just be fans. You're going to ride with him if you win or lose. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, he'll be back. He's still young. He's 35 years old. He still got at least 4 or 5 good more fights in him where, you know, he's rich as fuck. He's generational wealth. So just ride with him. Yeah. Ride with him to the sunset.
So.
Is there still a need for Benavidez?
Canelo?
Turki dropped.
People are talking about it.
Turki hinted at that. He was like Benavidez.
Yeah, he
Turki,
did.
So
Turki just posted that this morning, wondering if Benavidez can make 168. Maybe he has plans or ideas of maybe trying to match up Benavidez and Terence Crawford.
No,
we ain't doing that fight. Maybe planning on vacating the belts.
No, we ain't gonna vacate the belts. You know, we just gonna sit where we need to sit for a minute, and then, just like I said, get back in the gym and do our thing.
Ennis,
And he don't want none.
154, nah.
Crawford himself explained why before the Canelo fight. He said Benavidez is just too big. He said Benavidez is 6 foot something, and he's gonna come in 190 pounds, 200 pounds probably. He's a big dude. I might as well go heavyweight if I fight Benavidez. Here's the brutal truth. Both fighters are avoiding each other. Benavidez doesn't want to drain himself making 168. Crawford doesn't want to fight someone he views as too big and dangerous. It's a mutual duck. The boxing community has been destroying Crawford for this. If you want to be on the Mount Rushmore of boxing greats, you can't cherry-pick opponents. Legends like Sugar Ray Robinson, Muhammad Ali, and Sugar Ray Leonard took all challengers. They didn't care about size disadvantages. Benavidez is exactly the kind of test that would prove Crawford belongs in that elite conversation. He's young, powerful, relentless with his combinations, and he wouldn't let Crawford run and potshot for 12 rounds. It would be a war. Jose Benavidez Sr. said his son would destroy Crawford, claiming David is too strong, too big, and too young. He's probably right, but we'll never know because this fight appears dead in the water. The chances of this happening, less than 5%. Both fighters have made it clear through their words and actions that they don't want this fight. It's a damn shame because this would be the most explosive matchup in boxing right now. But there's one fight that makes more sense than everything else, and it could be the biggest rematch in boxing history. And now, the number one most likely and biggest fight for Terence Crawford, the Canelo Alvarez rematch. This is the fight that makes the most sense from every angle. Let me break down why this is almost certainly what's happening next. First, let's talk about what happened in their first fight. Crawford won by unanimous decision with scores of 116 to 112, 115 to 113, and 115 to 113. He outboxed Canelo over 12 rounds using superior footwork, hand speed, and ring generalship. It was a masterclass in how a smaller fighter can beat a bigger opponent. But here's where the rematch argument gets interesting. Immediately after the fight, news broke that Canelo had been fighting with an elbow injury that required surgery. He had the procedure done and is expected to be out until mid-2026. That's given fans and media members ammunition to say Canelo wasn't 100% and deserves another shot. Now, I want to be clear. Crawford beat Canelo convincingly. The injury doesn't change the fact that Bud was faster, sharper, and simply outclassed the Mexican superstar. But in boxing, any controversy or excuse becomes fuel for a massive rematch. And this rematch would be enormous. The first fight was called the Fight of the Century, and was shown on Netflix to massive viewership numbers. The rematch would do even bigger numbers because now you have 1. The controversy of Canelo's injury. 2. Mexican fans wanting redemption. 3. Crawford defenders wanting him to prove it wasn't a fluke. And 4. Both fighters being household names after the first bout. From a financial standpoint, this is a no-brainer for Crawford. Reports suggest he made somewhere close to $100 million for the first Canelo fight. The rematch would pay similar money, if not more. There's no other fight available that comes close to that payday. According to multiple sources, Crawford and Canelo are already in negotiations for a 2026 rematch. The timing makes sense. Canelo needs time to recover from surgery. Crawford wants a few more months to rest after the grueling Canelo camp. A summer or fall 2026 date seems likely. But here's the strategic question. Is this the right fight for Crawford's legacy? On one hand, beating Canelo twice would silence any doubters. It would prove the first win wasn't a fluke, and it would solidify Crawford as the best fighter of this era. The criticism that he caught Canelo when he was old and injured would be demolished if he beats him again. On the other hand, Crawford could be playing it safe. At 38 years old, he's avoiding younger, hungrier lions like Benavidez, Bud Ennis, and the middleweight killers. Fighting Canelo again, who will be 35 and coming off surgery, is the easier option compared to those other nightmares. Here's my prediction. This fight happens in September or October 2026. Al-Sheikh will throw massive money at both fighters. It'll be billed as the definitive answer to who's the better fighter. And Crawford will probably win again, though I expect it to be closer if Canelo's healthier. The chances of this happening, I'd say 70%. This is the most realistic and lucrative option available. Both fighters want it, the money's there, and the timing works perfectly. So there you have it, fight fans. The 5 most realistic and explosive potential matchups for Terence Crawford's next fight. To recap, number 5, Jaron Ennis, the most competitive fight but unlikely due to money. Number 4, Virgil Ortiz Jr., the dangerous young lion Crawford is probably avoiding. Number 3, Janibek Alimkhanuly, the history-making 4th undisputed title opportunity. Number 2, David Benavidez, the fight that should happen but both sides are ducking. Number 1, Canelo Alvarez rematch, the most likely and biggest money fight. Based on everything we've researched, I believe Crawford fights Janibek in March or April 2026 as a stay-busy fight to win his 4th undisputed championship. Then he rematches Canelo in fall 2026 for the massive payday before riding off into the sunset. But who do you think Crawford should fight next? Drop your predictions in the comments below. Are you team rematch with Canelo? Or do you want to see Crawford prove himself against young killers like Bud Ennis or Benavidez? Before you go, make sure to smash that like button if you enjoyed this breakdown. Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next video. Crawford's legacy is on the line with his next decision. At 38 years old, he can either chase historic greatness by fighting the toughest opponents available, or he can chase money with safer fights. Time will tell what Bud Crawford values more, legacy or the bag. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.